Okay, so you're somehow convinced that the TOEFL IBT is a really hard test. Maybe you've taken it several times and you've been disappointed with your scores, or you're just starting out and you're looking around at all the information and everyone is telling you that TOEFL IBT is a really hard test. But is it really? Or is it just tricky? Now, most of my students who come to me are pharmacists, dentists, or nurses, and some other professionals, but mostly pharmacists, nurses, and dentists who have passed their professional exams and they thought the TOEFL was going to be easy, but they failed it 2, 3, 4, sometimes 10 times. Can you imagine failing the TOEFL IBT 10 times? How bad must you feel after failing that many times? Well, the reason that you fail isn't because of English skills or the lack of English skills. The reason we fail is that we don't understand the TOEFL IBT and how it works. Now, there are many, many tutors out there, and I hear a lot about them because my students usually come to me after they've failed several times on their TOEFL, and they've taken other TOEFL courses and are still disappointed. Well, that's because there are many really good tutors out there and well-meaning tutors who just don't understand how the TOEFL works. So what I teach is very different from what they teach, but let's go over a few things that I've heard and let me know if you've heard these things. First of all, in the reading section. In the reading section, there are many tutors that are teaching that you need to study a variety of different subjects and become familiar with those subjects so that when you take the test, you'll be able to answer the questions quickly and accurately. But it turns out that that doesn't work. And it can never work. And the reason is that the TOEFL IBT is not testing you on real things. They take passages from real books and they modify them for the TOEFL IBT. You see, if you know about the subject, there will be choices that match what you know, but they're wrong. In other words, the less you know about the subjects, the higher your score will be. I know, thank you. I'm just saving you a tremendous amount of time and effort. Also, there are tutors who are selling vocabulary books, lists of vocabulary words. They're getting rich off of selling you vocabulary flashcards. Guess what? It'll never work because there are 250,000 words in the English language. They're adding 10,000 new words every year. How do you know which words are going to be on the test? TOEFL doesn't recycle. Believe me, back in 2009, I wanted to make my own TOEFL vocabulary book. And so I did my own research and I looked over dozens and dozens of tests. And guess what? ETS does not reuse words. So there is no such thing as TOEFL vocabulary lists. So stop the insanity. There are ways to answer questions, the vocabulary questions, even if you don't know all the words. And I teach that. But you're never going to improve by going over vocabulary lists and vocabulary lists and vocabulary lists. So stop all that. It's a waste of time. What's another thing that I hear a lot? Oh, yes. There are many tutors that are teaching that you should read the passage thoroughly so that you really understand it before answering the questions. Well, if you've taken the TOEFL already, you know that that's not possible. There's not enough time. There simply isn't enough time to read the passage thoroughly and answer the very tricky questions, very tricky questions. Well, then there are tutors who are saying that, oh, what you should do is read over quickly and take notes and use your notes to answer the questions. Well, that sounds wonderful because it's something like what we do in university, but it doesn't work on the TOEFL IBT. It doesn't work. So if you've been trying those methods and you've been frustrated, stop. It's insanity. That will never work. And then there's the tutors that say, oh, that doesn't work. Read the first sentence and the last sentence of each paragraph and use that information to answer the questions. That doesn't work either. It simply doesn't work, and it can't work because of how the test is structured and the rules that they use to make the wrong choices. All right, I'm going to let you know a little secret about the reading section. There are no right answers. In fact, the choices that are credited sometimes make no sense at all. They're just not wrong based on the rules. And I get into this more in my instruction videos in my video course. But what you really need to know about the TOEFL reading section is it isn't hard. It's tricky. If you have felt confused or overwhelmed when you're reading the TOEFL passages, even if you're just reading the paragraph that goes with the question, that's by design. You see, the TOEFL IBT isn't hard, it's just tricky. And once you know how ETS uses that anxiety and confusion to overwhelm you during the test, then you can master the procedures and the rules that you need to use to answer the questions quickly and accurately. And that's what I teach in my course, of course. In my course, of course? How about that? All right, what else do we need to know about the reading section? You know, you have 35 minutes to answer 20 very confusing questions. Many of my students get stuck on certain questions and they don't even get to see the last 5 or 6 questions on the test, except to guess as quickly as they can before the timer runs out. Well, that's because ETS always puts 1, sometimes 2 very tricky questions in the test that are there to rob you of your time. They're very complex. They make no sense. They're just there so that you read the question, you don't really understand what it's asking. You go to the paragraph could be long and confusing. And so you're reading as quickly as you can. You're frantic. You look at your choices. They don't match. You go back and look at your passage, and it's still more confusing than ever. You look at your choices, and you're going back and forth in this loop, right? That keeps you stuck there. And you just get more and more nervous and anxious, and finally you just guess at something and go on. But you know that you've wasted too much time. You're not going to be able to finish. And because the reading section is the first section, you're just lost. You know that the rest of the test doesn't matter. If you fail the reading, you can't pass the rest of the test. Even if you do perfect scores in the rest of the test and you fail your reading, you're testing again. So that psychological aspect of the TOEFL IBT is what makes it seem hard. It seems hard, but it isn't. It's just tricky. But once you know the tricks and the procedures for answering the questions, it becomes the easiest test you'll ever take. In fact, that's what I hear from all of my students. They say, Mister, this is too easy. Do you have any harder tests? I say, no, the test isn't getting easier. Your skills are improving. When your skills get better, the test seems easier. When your skills are such that the things that you're doing are not working, no matter how hard you work, you're not going to be able to pass. I have students that come to me and they've been practicing 10 hours a day. They've even had to quit their jobs to practice for the TOEFL, and they haven't been able to pass. But then once they come to see me and I teach you exactly what you need to do step by step according to how ETS has created the test, you're able to study and practice 1 hour a day. 1 hour, maybe 2, depending on what you want to do. But it's 1 hour because when you're doing the things the correct way, you don't have to practice as much. It's no longer a struggle. You will be able to raise your score significantly and have fun with your family, do your job, and live a peaceful life and pass your TOEFL quickly. All right, so that's the reading section, right? The reading section can be really exhausting when you don't know how to do it. But once you do know how to do it, the procedures and rules I teach, they answer the question. You know, they give you the answers, right? In the reading section, it's a multiple choice test. They give you the answers. They just make the test really overwhelming and tricky so that psychologically you think it's really hard when it isn't. All right, let's move on to the listening section. How are you doing with the listening section? Do you struggle with it? I have many students that they need to score 21 or 22, and they can't get over 19 in the listening section, and that is frustrating. I mean, really frustrating. But let's talk about some of the things that don't work, just in case you're doing these things, so you can stop. Let's see, taking notes. They say to listen carefully and write down the main ideas. Okay, but how do I know what the main ideas are? And how do I know if what I'm writing down is going to answer the questions? So what I end up doing is writing down everything because I don't know what to write. And I don't know what is the main idea. And then once you've written down so many notes, you get overwhelmed and you just don't know what to put. Okay, so that doesn't work. Some people don't take notes. Are you one of those people that you've taken so many notes that it's just overwhelming? And so you decided, you know what? I'm not going to take notes. I'm just going to listen. That can work if you have an excellent memory and you really understand how the TOEFL works, because keep in mind, the TOEFL isn't hard. It's tricky. ETS puts a lot of extra information in the passages that you're not going to be asked about. However, they will put that information, it's extra information that doesn't answer the questions, they will put that as choices. And so your brain will say, oh, I remember hearing this, and you'll pick that choice because it was in the passage, but it doesn't answer the question, and therefore it's wrong. Also, you might be an expert in the subject that you're listening about. And you think, oh, I can answer these questions easily. You read the question, you look at your choices, and there's a choice from the real world. That is true in the real world, but if it wasn't in the passage, it's not possible. It's wrong. So be careful with the listening section. It's not hard. It's tricky. The listening section is challenging in that they put a lot of extra information in the passages to overwhelm you with too much English and to trick you into picking wrong choices. The good news is ETS has very specific ways of giving the information that they're going to ask you about. Do you hear what I said? They have very specific ways of giving the information in the passages that you're going to use to answer the questions. And once you know what to listen for and what notes to take, you take fewer notes, but more relevant notes, and you can use those notes and your short-term memory to eliminate wrong choices based on the rules. So that's what I teach you, right? Keep it simple so you don't feel stupid. Once you learn the methods and procedures, you can easily score 27 or higher in the listening section. All right, what about the speaking section? You know, I have students that can barely speak English, and they earn 26 or 27 on the speaking section. Then I have students who speak English as well or better than I, and yet they get low scores on the speaking section. When I say low, I'm talking 22, 23, when you really need 26, 27, 28. Or even if you're at 25 and you're stuck at 25 and 25 and 25, it's so frustrating. How do you break into that 26? Well, you have to know the rules. There are many tutors that are teaching how to respond to questions. And the more I listen, the more I understand why you're so frustrated and can't pass the test. I teach you exactly what's required of you to answer questions and get the high score. Remember that the TOEFL IBT is a test of procedures and rules. What they're really testing you on is how well you know the procedures and you can obey the rules while working under pressure. It's not a civilian test. It's not like the regular university test that you've taken before. This is a whole different kind of test, and that's what makes it seem so hard. You're expecting it to work one way, and it doesn't. It's really hard to make it work that way, and it will never work that way. Think of it this way. Think of the TOEFL IBT like a lock. Let's say your doorknob on your front door. Well, if you have the wrong key, all the jiggling in the world is not going to work. But if you have the right key, it opens up and it's like, oh, mister, that was so easy. That's right. When you're doing things the wrong way, all the practice in the world won't help. But when you're doing things the way ETS wants you to, you can practice very little, but more effectively pass your TOEFL IBT quickly with a respectable passing score, which is necessary because there's a lot of competition right now. So if you're looking to score over 100, let me know so I can help you get there. Speaking section has rules, what they call the rubric. Once you know how the rubric works, you can structure your response so the way the graders are listening, right? You want to structure your response to the way they're listening so that they can give you the points you need. You can speak English perfectly, but if you're missing something from the rubric, something that the graders are listening for, you're going to have to test again. I do not teach templates. Just want to let you know right now, some people come to me, oh, mister, could you just give me a template? No, I can't, and I won't. I could, but I won't. Why not? Because templates not only don't work, ETS tells you, do not use memorized responses. Using memorized responses could result in a lower score. What they're saying is, don't use templates or we'll give you a lower score if you do. So don't use templates. I know there are a lot of people making a lot of money, and believe me, I told my wife, hey, honey, why don't I just make templates? I could be a millionaire. She said, no, we care about people. We're not going to do that. So I don't teach you templates. I do teach you how to structure your response so that you can get a 27 or higher, even if your English level is intermediate. Okay? I've been doing this since 2007. I know exactly what you go through. I've been through all the scenarios. I don't just do this as a part-time job. This is what I do every day, every day, every day, all day. So whatever situation you've got, I'm sure I can help you to overcome it, to get your respectable passing score and move on with your life. All right, let's just get to the writing section. The writing section is very similar to the speaking section in that there's a rubric, there's rules. The first question, I've seen a lot of people teaching the wrong things about that, how to respond. There are ways that if you respond the way ETS wants you to, you automatically get a high score, even if you have a lot of mistakes in your response. Did you hear what I said? You can get a high score, even if you have a lot of errors in your response, as long as you're following the rules, not using a template, following the structures and rules that are required of you by ETS. You need to write down the things that the graders are looking for. So I teach you exactly how to do that, step by step, by the way. And that's one issue with my program is that many of my students say, Mister, this is too easy. I've been doing this a long time, and I have learned how to simplify what I teach. I teach very complicated study skills, very complicated test-taking skills, and I explain it in a very simple step-by-step way so that just about anyone can take what I teach you and apply it to the TOEFL IBT, get that respectable passing score, say, thank you, Mr. Hearn, you're blessed, wonderful, see you later. That's what I look forward to. I want you to pass this test. I want you to pass this test in a short amount of time, and I want you to pass with a respectable passing score. Get off the treadmill of this crazy TOEFL IBT. Stop struggling with this test. Learn what I teach you so that you can answer all of the questions on the test quickly and accurately. Get that respectable passing score by doing things the way ETS wants you to. It's not a hard test. It's just tricky. But once you know the tricks, it's no longer tricky. They can't beat you anymore. You can beat the test. You can. No matter how much you've struggled in the past, I can assure you, all of my students come to me after struggling a lot. And it takes 30 days. It takes 30 days to master all the sections of the test, and then you can take your test, pass it, and get on with your life. Just go ahead and contact me. Click the link in the description below, or in one of the cards on the screen, and come over here, subscribe, come and see me, talk to me, I'm the one giving the classes, by the way. That's one other thing about other tutors you see on YouTube. You think you're going to get classes with them, you end up being with some flunky that they pushed you off on. I don't do that. I teach you personally how to pass the TOEFL IBT so that you can get on with your life and get into the community, start doing some good. Okay. End the frustration. Come see me. I'll see you soon.